Today, I'm delighted to introduce Pietro Pelligra, who is the chairman of the board of Portobello SpA. Pietro, thank you for taking the time to speak to us today.
Thank you.
My first question is, most investors are probably unfamiliar with Portobello and the business model. So could you give an overview of Portobello's retail offer and the business model that supports it, please?
Sure. Portobello is a quite young company, but we have a very innovative business model. Basically, we have two business units. One is a media and the other one is a retail business unit. In a nutshell, what we do is we sell media ads in barter and we get consumer goods in exchange for ads. Then what we do is that we resell the products that we procure through this barter mechanism, using mostly a direct-to-consumer channel, which is represented by our own stores, which are branded Portobello. So this business model basically gives us three competitive advantages. The fact that we use this barter exchange activity as a procurement allow us basically to reduce the procurement price of about 40–50% of the goods that we sell in the stores. This lower procurement price allow us basically to come up with the lowest price in the market, lower than anyone else basically, but at the same time to enjoy higher margins than our competitors. So these are the first two really strong competitive advantages. The third is that since we procure in barter, so thanks to this exchange of ads versus goods, we don't have any cash out. So we have also an interesting advantage in cash flow management, since for about 40–50% of the items that we sell in our stores, basically we have just a cash in when we sell these items to our customers, but we don't have any cash out since we procure them using this exchange mechanism.
That's great, thank you. And my second question is, a key element of that business model is the ability to source products at a very low cost in return for advertising. So why is that an attractive option for the suppliers?
So there are many different advantages for suppliers. The main advantage is lies in the opportunity of getting rid of slow-moving inventory without the need of writing them off and having a negative consequence on their financial statements. Because imagine in a certain industry, like mostly in consumer good industry, like for example, apparel, accessories, there are seasonal collection, and the time in a season, basically those items goes out of date, and so they are no longer sellable by retailers, for example. So there is a risk of depreciation or writing off of the unsold inventory that most of this brand or retailer or distributor carry in their warehouse. So using this barter technique allow them to get rid of this slow-moving inventory without the risk of writing it off, which would have negative consequences on their financial statement, for example. At the same time, receiving ads in exchange for this unsold inventory allow them to have a cost saving on, for example, marketing expenditures. Then there are many other instances where this bartering technique could be beneficial for suppliers. For example, this exchange could be beneficial or could be an efficient way to increase spare capacity in industries, for example, with high fixed cost, for example, as hospitality or the travel industry. In this industry, you have basically high fixed cost and low marginal cost. So if you have spare capacity, you can basically give out some capacity in exchange for media without incurring in basically extra costs, or the marginal extra cost is negligible. Or the barter could be beneficial in other instances where a company needs to acquire new customers or wants to reach a sales target without the need of having a specific cash out.
Okay, thank you. you've currently got a store base of about 25 in various parts of Italy, I think. But Portobello has no stated targets for the long-term growth profile. So could you just give some idea of what you think the trajectory for the business is over a multi-year period?
So basically, we closed 2021 with about 12,000 square meters of commercial surface. And we will reach about 30,000 square meters of commercial surface at the end of 2022. Of course, we will not stop there. The goal for us is to keep growing in the coming years, basically for three reasons. First of all, our value proposition of selling branded mass consumer products at low prices, lower than anyone else, is working very well. Above all, in timing like the one where we are living right now of rising inflation, when the disposable income is reduced basically, and people become more price sensitive. So in times like this, what happens is people become more price sensitive, and what they do is they focus on buying mostly primary products. And since about 80–90% of the products that we sell in our stores are primary products, they are household products, of course, we have a clear advantages versus competitors. The second reason is that competition is weak at the moment, for the reason I was mentioning, and the store rental prices are at their historical minimum, at least in Italy, but I think this is happening everywhere. So there are not many investments in new opening or new retailers or new formats development. The third reason is because this procurement using this barter technique, using, of course, proprietary media, because what we are also a media company. So we use a portfolio of media ads, which is proprietary mostly, give us a strong competitive advantage versus other retailers, because this gives us the flexibility of basically purchasing without the use of cash, and lowering also the purchasing price, and so also the risk of unsold inventory. As a consequence, we realize that there is a clear and feasible growth path in scaling our operations and scaling our retail network. Also because the quicker we're going to scale, the more we're going to enjoy economies of scale on one side and more negotiating power vis-a-vis our suppliers. And this will further increase margins and allowing us to be even more competitive on prices, and at the same time to spread more the brand awareness among consumers. So for this reason, we have been accelerating growth, because the quicker we grow, the more we can enjoy benefits both on the cost side, on the margin side, and on the brand awareness side.
Portobello is a relatively young company, so could you give some background as to how the product offer has evolved over that time, and how you think it will do so in the future as the store portfolio grows and with bigger stores?
Sure. Portobello, as you mentioned, is relatively young, yet we've been able to gather quite a good experience on what worked best for consumers in a classic retail environment. We firstly started with the smaller venues, about stores of about 250 square meters in high street or high traffic areas. Our stores at the beginning were mainly focusing on the mere product categories for household, like kitchenware and consumer electronics, cleaning products, always branded product though. So no white label, no unbranded. Then what happened is that we started to increase the size of our stores up to 10, 12, 1,500 square meters in order on one side to enlarge the product range, and also to include other product categories like coffee, wine, house furniture, of course, product categories which were related to the one we were already selling. This has allowed us to enhance our margins and our sales per square meter while maintaining a competitive price, since the new category were mostly sourcing barter. So this enlargement allowed us basically to focus more on categories where we have a cost competitive advantage. At the same time, what we did is to start opening more stores in shopping malls. Since being in a commercial center allow us also to basically has two benefits. On one side, to reduce the time to break even and to increase the footfall. The reason is that when we open a store in high street or in city center, of course, no one knows about the store. So it takes a few months before the stores get known by people who lives there or who works there or who sometimes work there. Whereas when we open in a shopping mall, there is an automatic traffic which is driven by the shopping mall. Considering that our brand awareness is still limited, it's growing but still limited, a shopping mall for us is useful to guarantee a certain traffic right from the beginning. So this allows us basically to reduce the time to break even. For the future, of course, we will continue with a combination of shopping mall and city shops and city center shops, but we are also exploring the possibility of a franchising model, mostly for remote areas where we don't have a direct connection and where probably local entrepreneurs could be useful in basically tackling the opportunity of having stores without the hassle of reaching peripheral areas.
That's great, thank you. And my final question is, the ambition to expand geographically across Italy means that Portobello must scale its sourcing of its media activities and of the goods to be sold in the store. So could you give some idea of how easy you believe that will be and what are the potential challenges of doing so?
So we've been able to create ultimately the first retail chain in the world, as far as we know, which uses bartering as a way to procure about 40–50% of the products that are sold in our stores. This is a quite unique and not replicable value proposition and business model, we think, by existing competitor, for a very simple reason. In order to do that, you must firstly own proprietary media, then scaled media at limited cost and risk, of course, then create a supply chain able to handle the extra complexities deriving from a sourcing in barter, which is not easy. At the same time, you must be able to do another thing. You must be able to create a pleasant and premium purchasing experience, because of course people don't want to have the feeling of going into discount stores of something of low level. And so the ambience, the sound, the product display, product selection, staff training are absolutely key for us. And finally, of course, there is the price, which is what creates the impulse to buy, and often in our stores also, since the products vary constantly, create this sort of serendipity effects where customers come from time to time to see what's new and what's hot. So basically, the challenge for scaling are, on one side, to be able to scale with media, but again, without incurring in extra cost and maintaining a very limited risk. And the way we will be doing that is will be done mostly through investment in other publishing companies which are performing well, and where, thanks to this investment, we will be able to source or to strike commercial deals where we can buy at a very big discount unsold advertising from these publishing companies. And at the same time, always scale and improve our retail network by, on one side, as I was mentioning before, trying to reach economies of scales and more negotiating power the bigger we become with the supplier. But at the same time, keep continuing experimenting with the value proposition, with the product offering in our stores, with staff training and so on, so that we can offer an experience which is a premium experience, premium, of course, for the consumer goods type of business. Of course, we are not in the luxury business, so we are in the mass market, but we are at premium in terms of purchasing experience for mass market products. And enlarging and diversifying our product range so that we can always be more competitive than anyone else, and always trying to delight our customers.
Thank you, Pietro. It was good to speak to you today.
Thank you.